Hello and welcome to a channel update for the new year. Well, I say the new year, it's in March, but I did plan to do this update on the 1st of January, so let's treat it as our new year. So, why am I doing the update a little bit later? Well, because some things weren't quite right in January for the channel. The channel was in a bit of a weird spot December, January, and I think we've got a little bit back to where I want it to be going, and it's going in the right direction, it's got some momentum behind it, so I feel like this is a good opportunity to kind of do an update and tell you where everything's at. So, let's start with, let's start with what's on the channel. So, what we've got on the channel is we've got Cyberpunk, we got Persona, we got some CK3, we got Fire Emblem, and we got Stellaris. And I think that 5 series is probably where I want to keep my maximum going forward. I think ideally what I want to be sitting at is 4 ongoing series and then 1 slot that we can fill in with like something big that's come out of a little bit out of nowhere or that I wasn't expecting to like as much, and then it can fill that slot. The problem was, we kind of had too many of those last year, because I knew I wanted to play Cyberpunk, although it's not been a huge hit on the channel, it's something I've enjoyed quite a lot, and it was kind of something that was always going to be on the channel. Then we also had Persona, which I really didn't expect to like as much as I did, with Persona 4, so when I finished Persona 4, I was like, immediately I want to start Persona 5. So that's another series. Fire Emblem actually was a similar series to Persona originally. It was a series where I was like, hey, I'll play it, I'll play 1 playthrough. We're now in our 4th playthrough. And, again, didn't expect to like it as much. And it's got like a permanent slot on the channel despite not necessarily being planned for. So I think I just need a little bit more flexibility and a little less number of series. So, what's going to happen is Cyberpunk's going to end on Friday because we finished it. We did every side quest that I think was in the game, barring all the, oh, there's some fight going on over here, you should deal with it quest that you got on the main map. Like, we did all the ones with story behind it. We've done the main quest. We only did 1 ending. I'm maybe going to go back and do some of the others at some point, but we did 1 ending, and you know what? I think I'm happy with it. I've had fun with it. Will I go back to it if they do a DLC? Maybe. I don't know. Reception on the channel was definitely muted for Cyberpunk. What I will say is that if you were disliking it, and I know that some people were, please just tell me in words if you're disliking it. The dislike button on YouTube is not very useful for feedback. It doesn't tell me what exactly you didn't like about it. Because for all I know, you were enjoying the content, because there were people who were like, every day, the moment Cyberpunk comes out, disliking the video. And I'm like, okay, so you're obviously aware of it, you're going in to do it, are you watching the video? Are you still enjoying the content? Or is the dislikes a protest against CDPR, which I can understand, or do you dislike the content in its format? At which point, that's fine, or is it a combination of both of those things? It's useful to know. Even if it's not necessarily going to change anything, it might change how I do things in the future. For instance, if I see a game getting as much negative press as Cyberpunk, maybe we'll just leave it. Maybe we'll come to it later when it's a little bit more fixed up, something like that. Anyway, for now, the series will be ending, and I think that we're not going to immediately replace it. We might leave it a week or 2, because I also believe that Fire Emblem is not that far from completion, so I suspect that we'll start another RPG type thing in Fire Emblem slot next, and then that leaves us with a little extra slot for a little bit more variety, and potentially some streaming. So, talking about streaming, why has there not been that many streams since the new year? Well, long story short, my internet has been a little bit garbage. It's really just not been a positive force here, in that it disconnects occasionally. Like, everything will be fine, and then it'll just go, nope, I'm out. And then it'll come back. Which is fine for YouTube, because on YouTube, basically, I don't care if it goes out for, 0.1 of a second, because that's fine. Or for YouTube videos, I should say. Like, if it goes out for 0.1 of a second, who cares, right? The upload will just continue after that, no issue. However, for things like Twitch, and for YouTube streaming in particular, it's a much bigger problem. On Twitch, not so bad. It actually recovers from a disconnect quite well. Users see a little bit of buffering, not too bad. It's all on the same page, so when it's back up, people can just see the thing, like, it'll just reappear on their screen. YouTube streaming has a different way of doing it, at least for the way that multi-streaming works. Because the way that multi-streaming works, you have to have what they call an event page. And an event page is like a thing you say ahead of time, we're going to be streaming this thing. You put a thumbnail up, you put a description up, all that sort of stuff. You'll probably have seen it on the channel if you've been around for a little bit, and it'll be at the top of the channel page. There'll be like upcoming live streams, and then you'll see this one, and it will all flow through like that. So you click on it and it will remind you. It does all that sort of stuff. So it's kind of cool. However, if you disconnect from it, it assumes that your event is finished, and therefore you can never stream to that event again, which is an issue because what it will do is once you disconnect, you cannot reconnect, so you have to choose a new event, which means if you're multi-streaming, you have to take down the Twitch stream as well. Then you have to create a new event, and then you start the stream again on that new event. Starting the stream on the new event basically means that it's on a new URL, so you have to get everybody from the old event over to the new event, which is just a huge pain, and obviously people are just going to not do that most of the time. And then, once you've done that, if it does another micro disconnect, you have to do it all over again. And essentially, it's not really worth the hassle. However, I have seen, I have worked out that there are certain things that cause it to disconnect more than others. I think it might be an issue with my machine, so there could be a potential point in the future. I do have some time off in March where I might just do a complete, reinstall of Windows from scratch, just go, hey, what do I need? What's going to be on here, and just strip out all of the stuff that could be going wrong effectively. So that's part of the plan. Also, what's quite nice is that I don't have an awful lot of series going on with like saves that are impossible to get back right now. If we go for a complete reinstall, what have I got? Like Cyberpunk's finished. We're gonna have Persona, which is on the PS4, so no issue. Also, if you're interested in Persona, this is the Persona music that's playing in the background from the Persona 5 soundtrack, which is on Spotify. It's not an ad, but the music is incredible. So, yeah. Anyway. This is on the PS4. Fire Emblem's on the Switch. Stellaris, it's like a singular save that you can just copy and paste. I do want to talk more about Stellaris, we'll get to it. And CK3 again, it's a singular save that you can copy and paste. They can easily be backed up. Also, I think both of these have cloud saving, which is fine. Which is part of our issue with Stellaris, is that we've actually maxed out the cloud saves allowed for a singular game. We are on, we've got 100 saves on Stellaris. Well, that's not entirely true. We actually have over 100 saves. We have a save for every episode. But I had to delete some. So over its lifetime, it's had more. Anyway, I suppose we should talk about Stellaris a little bit. We've kind of talked about streaming. I do want to come back and do it. My current plan is I want to do a variety stream and then a specifically planned stream. So by that I mean I probably want to do a stream where I just turn on something like Twitch and just go, hey, we're playing this game. Just some random game. Play it. Whether it goes on YouTube or not depends on what it is. It could be one of the co-op streams where we just play some board games or something. Won't necessarily bring that to YouTube. It could be we play, one of the ideas I had was potentially playing Persona 4 Arena, at which point I would definitely want to bring that to YouTube because it's a nice little spin-off from Persona 4. Specifically planned, I would be thinking that would be more of a series if we were going to do it, so something like the Final Fantasy 9 stuff we could finish off, the Sekiro stuff, although I'm actually thinking with Sekiro right now, my current plan is I might just finish the boss while recording and just have that as the end of the series, because we have literally the final boss. I mean, maybe that could go in the variety slot, just me throwing my head against this boss until we do it, but essentially, yeah, that would be the kind of thing that I'd be putting in that slot. Something a little bit longer, something that's going to last a little bit more time. Nothing that's hugely long. I think the problem I had originally when I chose both Sekiro and Final Fantasy 9 is that they're really long games. I think it would be better for something it'll take 2 or 3 weeks. So 2 or 3 weeks of 3-hour stuff. We're talking a 10 to 12 hour game. Something like that I think would be perfect. You stream it, it's still got a little bit of variety, and then we're done with it, we move on to something new. So basically something new every month. Or maybe something that's a little bit longer, but it's only longer due to grinding, and then we could do the grinding during a variety slot or something like that. I haven't fully got it in my head yet, but that's kind of what I'm thinking, and then just kind of ramp that up. Having less series on the go as well means that streaming's a lot more possible. Now, streaming is less popular on the channel right now, but one of the things I quite like about it is it gives me a good way to actually talk to people, because I've been falling behind a little bit on comments because, well, quite frankly, there's a lot of comments now, and that's a fantastic thing. Just a little bit difficult to kind of get a bit more of the personal touch, if you know what I'm meaning. It's a little bit more difficult to actually talk to people in like more of a one-to-one format where it's you get to know your audience a little bit more, if that makes sense. Anyway, what haven't we talked about yet? Ah, right, yes, Persona. Persona is amazing. I believe that we're onto the Royal content, so basically they released Persona 5 originally, and it had an ending, and then the Royal content is DLC that added stuff throughout the game, but also adds in like a whole new part of the game at the end, which is like bulky in of itself. So it's a lot of fun. I'm enjoying it, obviously, and we are going to play the Persona 5 Strikers game, which came out, what, like a week ago now? We're going to play that afterwards. Originally my plan was to finish Persona by the time Strikers came out and then it naturally flow into it. Persona's a much longer game than I had initially planned for, but yeah, I think that's the natural place where that slot's going to go forward, because yeah, I want to continue the story. Although, technically, Persona 5 Strikers is not the sequel to Persona 5, it's actually, sorry, it's not the sequel to Persona 5 Royal, it's the sequel to Persona 5, which is means like the Royal content in the game isn't like, it doesn't affect the Strikers game or something like that. Anyway, it doesn't really matter. Also, I believe it was previously released in Japan as Persona 5 Scramble. I believe that they are the same game, so if you've heard it by that name, that'll be the reason. I'm actually going to skip forward just a couple of songs here in this playlist, just so we get something a little bit more chill, because I noticed that we're about to hit things that are just like very, very tension heavy for what we're, you know, for just a nice little chat. CK3, there's going to be a new DLC not that far away. They've started doing dev diaries for it, and they've started showing some of their changes, which usually indicates that the DLC's like really gonna be quite soon. So the current series is just like a nice little calm series, something where we can investigate a couple of mechanics, and then when the DLC comes out, we're definitely going to do whatever the major thing in the DLC is. I don't know what that is yet, but yeah, we'll have a look when that comes out. Basically, Crusader Kings 3, not a lot to talk about. What I will say is, I have considered going back to doing some more Crusader Kings 2, and I kind of tested it with that Meddlesome Mind Flayers one. And there are a couple of reasons why I'm a little bit hesitant to go back to Crusader Kings 2. The first one is, quite simply, the viewership for Crusader Kings 2 has gone down. And that's to be expected. The sequel's released, a lot of people have moved on to the sequel as the only thing that they're interested in, and it's also going to be a more growing viewer base because there's more people watching it. The other thing is, there's not really a lot in Crusader Kings 2 that we haven't seen before. A lot of it is previously treaded ground. I don't believe there's a lot of new mods releasing for it, although maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I've missed something recently, in which case, please let me know. But there isn't a lot of new stuff for Crusader Kings 2, while there's a lot of new stuff in Crusader Kings 3 I haven't quite looked through yet, so that's kind of why I'm edging more towards Crusader Kings 3 now. But if somebody does a big mod for Crusader Kings 2, we could definitely check it out in the future. Let's see. We haven't talked about Stellaris yet. Stellaris, I want to finish this series because it's more a matter of pride than anything else at this point. It's the fact that we've had the series going for so long. It's been kept on life support. I want to maybe just take a couple of days and just finish it. Get to the end of the game and sort it out. One of the main problems of Stellaris, in terms of things, is it's a long time to record, right? It's like a 2.5 hours to get 20 minutes of content, which is not great in terms of a value proposition. But the reason why it's a lot of that is because basically the game is getting worse as we keep playing through it. Like, the game is physically slowing down as we get further and further in, and there's less and less to do, so it's just kind of slowing to a halt, which is not exactly what we want out of it. But we are so near the end of the game, it's like I just want to push that a little bit further. After we finish Stellaris, I'm not entirely sure what's going to go into that slot. I want it to be like another strategy game type thing, but we could potentially do more Stellaris, because there's new DLC coming out for that. This could be where Crusader Kings 2 comes in. There are also a couple of other things I haven't checked out, like Dyson Sphere projects, apparently kind of like Factorio in space, which sounds intriguing. And some other things, like City Skylines I've wanted to go back to for a while, so that sort of stuff could go into that slot. I'm not entirely set in stone on what's happening there yet, but that's part of what I want to do. I want to not be 100% set in stone with anything. And then when something new pops up, we can jump onto that. Instead of having like a list of things where it's like, we have to do this, then we have to do that, then we have to do this. We're inflexible, we don't have an option. I think that this is a better way to run things. Let's just be a little bit more adaptive based on what's happening. Yes, after Fire Emblem and Cyberpunk, I said we're going to go on to do another RPG. I think that immediately what I'm going to do is I'm going to play the remainder of Baldur's Gate. So I want to play the Baldur's Gate DLC, and then potentially we'll just go straight into 2 after that, depending on how long the Baldur's Gate DLC is. I know that the Baldur's Gate DLC was released it was released like, what, 10 years after Baldur's Gate was? Because it was done by the people who remastered it. Beamdog, I think their name is. But, yeah. So it's not necessarily canon, but it's meant to bridge the gap between Baldur's Gate 1 and Baldur's Gate 2 in some way. And apparently it's not bad, so it seems like the right time to try it out. Otherwise, we're just going to give it a pass and go straight to 2. But yeah, sounds like something that we can try out. And then there have been a lot of suggestions for like other JRPGs. The reason I want to avoid going directly into another long-term JRPG immediately is because, well, really, although I'm quite interested, they're just incredibly long. And they kind of take up a slot on the channel for just a long time. So I want to try and avoid having too many going, because I'm not entirely sure what's actually releasing this year yet. Because obviously, because of everything that's happened in the last year, not a lot of things are releasing. So I'm not entirely sure what's going to be coming out. There are a lot of companies that are like, yeah, I'll be ready when it's ready. And I'm just leaving some space. There was a game that was being suggested a couple of times called Game Deck, which is it's meant to be an investigation CRPG kind of thing, which sounds perfect. I'm also tempted to go back to Disco Elysium when they add in voice acting. That could be an intriguing thing to do. Although, we have done a couple of the endings already in Disco Elysium, because we went back to try out a couple of different things and see how different choices nearing the end of the game affect the outcomes. So we've already seen a lot of the different outcomes for it, but it could be cool. I'm also potentially wanting to go back to Mass Effect when they release the remaster, depending on how good that is, because that's a game series that I really enjoyed. We did play Andromeda on the channel a while ago, but we haven't ever played the original games, so that could be cool. Life is Strange 2 is another one that I want to jump onto and just finish off, because we only have 2 more episodes. That might be something that I do during my time off, depending on how much time I get. See, I don't want to just book all my time off to do stuff which I don't necessarily have time for, but yeah, Life is Strange 2 we could potentially do then. I'm just looking at what else I had in my upcoming list. This list has not been updated properly. Yeah, a couple of these were from the Microsoft event last E3. Well, last not E3, so I'm not entirely sure that these are going to be coming out anytime soon. We know that Vampire Masquerade Bloodlines is not coming out anytime soon. And let me just say that my current priority on it is dropping by the day as more and more info comes out on it, because it is, yeah, it's going through some interesting development. I believe they have switched developer and it's not coming out this year is the current info on it, so not ideal. Baldur's Gate 3, on the other hand, if you've not been watching their live streams of it, I mean, obviously they're filled with spoilers, so if you're trying to avoid spoilers, then, you know, don't watch them. But they are very, very funny. and they actually show the game off in a good way in that it's not scripted, and things will go incredibly wrong. I believe the last one that I saw had, I think his name is Sven, the like the person, I don't know entirely what his position, but he's in charge of the studio, basically just completely going off the rails. He kept being like, all right, we'll try this solution. And things just kept going wrong. He kept getting nat 1s. The enemies kept getting 20s on them. And things just went crazy. And the game just looks so much better for it. It's like you just get into these weird and wacky situations. And it feels a lot like kind of the D&D experience. It's like, all right, I have the DM's like, I have a plan. This is how things are going to go. You're going to go into the fight. You're going to sneak in. You're going to beat the big bad. And everything's going to be great. And you walk in and you fail your sneak roll. The big bad crits the person, and now the rest of the party have to rush in there and try and save them, and everything's just gone incredibly wrong. So, yeah, Baldur's Gate 3, something I want to jump on, and that's kind of the reason I want to finish Baldur's Gate DLC and Baldur's Gate 2. Again, the music's getting a little bit too exciting here for just our nice casual chat. But yeah, Baldur's Gate DLC and Baldur's Gate 2 I want to finish before we play Baldur's Gate 3, because no doubt there is going to be references to those games within that. And I believe that there's at least one character returning, although I don't know what character it is. I would have to assume it's an elf. That'd just be my natural thought, you know, someone who can survive long enough to be it, because I think Baldur's Gate 3 is set like it's 500 years in the future, so we can avoid a lot of the background lore that is already there. But yeah, so I'm assuming that it has to be some kind of long-lived thing, or demon, or, you know, something like that. Anyway, beyond that, there's not really a lot else to talk about for the channel. Things are looking a lot better. Around December time, we were about, yeah, things had kind of, were about third of usual in terms of how the channel is, and now we've gotten back up to where the usual numbers are. And now we're going up from there. So I'm taking that as a sign that things are going better. Just a little bit more of a steady schedule, a little bit better in terms of game choice, just a few little changes here and there, and it's suddenly, you know, things are back to normal. So I'm happy with it. So thank you for watching if you've watched this quick little channel update. And yeah, tell me what you want to see going forward. There are a couple of opportunities to influence things. What's happening after Stellaris, I'm pretty much undecided on. I'm 100% on what's happening after Persona. I'm not like sold on what Crusader Kings 3 series we're doing. I'm like, you know, 70% on Baldur's Gate after Fire Emblem and Cyberpunk, but you know, again, not 100%. And if there's anything else I've missed, let me know, and I'll see what's going on. And I can, you know, we'll maybe try out a couple different things. If you got anything that's just coming out in early access or something, that'd be awesome, because I'm wanting to just check out a few things, see what sticks. There was that game, what was it? The Atom RPG, I still want to go back to at some point, whenever we get a free slot, but yeah. Anyway, thank you for watching. I'll see you next time. Goodbye.